Hey everybody, welcome back to Creating Scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And we continue our videos on creating a Fairfield Inn hotel. Last time, you remember, well, I showed you how to do a layout of the building, obviously. And also extruded the walls to their size. Now, the only thing is that I have gone in off screen and made some adjustments in terms of size, and that's usually what I do. Is I get the layout, and then I make my adjustments to make sure that they're close to real life as possible, so to speak. So, for instance, if I bring up Google Earth. Okay, and let me go to my website that I usually use for local buildings anyway, using the Franklin County Geographic Information System site where I do my more precise measurements. Now, what we're going to be doing. So anyway, like I said, I just make sure that I believe that everything lines up where it's supposed to. My dimensions are close to what they are in reality. They may not be perfect. I understand that. Like I said, without construction drawings, you just have to make some guesses. But we're pretty good here. Now, what we're going to be doing in this episode is we are going to be cutting in these windows. We'll save this, see how this part of the building overhangs, and this part overhangs about 1.5 feet, 2 feet out from this gray wall. We'll take care of that later. What I want to do is just concentrate on getting the rough estimate of cutting out these windows. And what it looks like to me is, now if we swing around the other side of the building, it is highly likely that these windows on one side of the building are straight across from the windows that are on the other side. It's just basic construction stuff. I mean, if they're not lined up, then there's going to be a lot more interior load-bearing walls and stuff. All right. But I'm pretty sure that they line up straight across. So you have the hallway that goes down the middle, and then you have doors that are on either side of the hallway that line up. So at least that's the way I'm going to approach it, that there are as many windows on the other side as there are on this side. With the exception, see, this is set back here. Well, there's this column of windows is also set back, but the cuts where they actually show up should be about the same. You guys with me? All right, so anyway, we're going to cut out this window, these series of windows, using some loop cuts. So let's get to work. All right, so this dimension here I measured when I was laying out my building to be 86 feet. And I have 6 columns of windows. And those windows are 6 feet across. All right, so we need to start laying out our loop cuts for these windows. So what I'm looking at is kind of, whoops, where's my measure tool? There it is. It's over here. Let me bring it up here. All right, so if I did a path, I'm going to do this rough here. Click here. Click here. I get 5.9 feet. I'm pretty sure that they're 6 feet across. And then let's clear that and let's go in between the windows. And I'm getting like anywhere, every time I click, I'll get a different dimension, anywhere between 7 and 8 feet between the windows. And then on the ends of this particular area, I'm getting around 5 feet or so, for 4.5, 5 feet. All right, so what I'm going to do is, in order to make these work out mathematically, So if I have 86 feet, I have 6 windows that are 6. That's 36 feet from the 86. That gives me 50 feet left over. Now, if I count the 5 that's on each side, that gives me 40 feet for 40 feet of these gaps. All right. And so I have 5 of these gaps. So that means that they're each 8 foot across. Does that make sense? All right. That's a pretty good guess. It may not be perfect, but it's a pretty good guess. So if we go back into Blender, and I have my main selected, and I also have the roof. Now remember the last video, we did an inset to create a parapet, and then I ended up undoing that because we'll do it later. Okay, just so you know, we'll do the parapets later. All right, so we're in our object. I'm going to go to face mode, and this is the first face that we're going to be using. We have 6 columns of windows, and if we remember, I'm just going to do a whole bunch of loop cuts. So I'm going to Control R. I'm going to click, drag that over to the left. I'm going to go ahead and turn off snap. You don't have to, but it's easier in this particular case because it's automatically going to end there. Now, remember, in this particular view, X is positive, positive X is to the right, negative X is to the left, positive Y is away from me, negative Y is toward me. So we're working on the X-axis. So I did a loop cut, slid that to the far left corner of that wall, and now we're going to GX positive 5 feet. All right, so there goes my first subdivision, and now I'm going to Control C, Control R, slide it all the way to the right, and then I'm going to GX minus 5. All right, so that gives us our 2 columns that are the margins. So this is where this window starts, and then this is where this window starts coming from the other side. Now we want to put our left faces, well, it'd be the right face of the first window. So if I did a Control R, click, slide that over, and then did a GX6, this is our first column of windows. All right. Now, it's just a series. Remember, I did the math ahead of time in my head. So I'm going to have 5 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, 6. You get the picture? So we're going to lay out the windows. Now, you can, and I'm not saying you can't, but an easy way to do this would be to do a Control R, and then you can do a series of loop cuts like this, and then move them accordingly. All right, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to be precise on laying out my loop cuts. All right, so we're just going to do them one at a time. This might be a long way to do it, but you know, we're just going to do it this way. All right, so we got our window. Now we need the gap. So Control R, slide that over, GX8. All right, and then we got another window. Control R, GX6. All right, Control R, GX8. Control R, GX6, and so on. Let me finish that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have all those loop cuts in, and if we look at our building, it looks relatively symmetrical. Actually, it is. It's evenly divided. Now, these gaps may be bigger than they are in real life, but I think they're close enough. We're trying to get that good illusion. All right. Now, on this small one right here, we only have one window, one column of window. The window, its size, is still 6 foot. Okay. So what we need to do is know what that measurement is. And if I go path and I try to click this corner as close as possible, and this one over here, it's not exactly straight. But we made this section of our building 12 feet, right? So if I have a 6-foot window, I have 3 feet on each side. So let's go ahead and do our loop cut for this. So we're going to click here, slide it all the way to the left, GX3, okay, and then do the same on the other side to the right, GX minus 3, and that gives us our 6-foot windows going right down the middle of that column, right? Okay, now we need to continue and do this face, this face, this face, and this face, all right? So let's do some quick measuring. So I have this section 15.5 feet. All right. That's a 6-foot window. So you just do your math. Sorry, I'm not doing this in my head. Sorry. All right. So if I have 15.5, 15.5 minus 6. That gives me 9.5, and 9.5 divided by 2 is going to be what? 4.75. So I'm going to have 4.75 on each side of this window. Okay, so we're going to come over here. We're going to go into Control R, move that to the left, GX 4.75, and then we're going to do the same thing except going the other way. GX minus 4.75. So we have a 6-foot window going down the middle. Let's do this one, and this one. All right. I'm going to pause and get those done for you, but it's the same process. Okay, I want to show you what I do on this one. All right, so if we look at the prototype real quick, our measurement for this wall is 42.5. All right, so I measured this. This is 3 foot. Each window is 6 foot, so that's 18 feet together. And then 2 sections of probably 8 foot, so that's 16. So that makes this gap 5.5 feet. So it's 1.5 foot. I mean, it's 2.5 feet wider than this area. So that's what I'm doing. All right. So we're gonna Control R. Slide that over GX3, and then we're going to Control R over here, GX minus 5.5, and then we do our spacing. We have the 6 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot. All right, so we're going to Control R, GX6, Control R, GX8, Control R, GX6, and Control R, GX8. Okay, so it gives us our 3 columns of windows for this wall. All right. Now I'll pause and go on to these others, and I'll be right back when I get those done. Okay, so on this last bit, all right, the overall dimension was 72 feet. If I go to my dimensions, see, it was 72 feet. All right, and I have 5 6-foot windows. That's 30. So I got 42 left over. And if I assume that these were 8, I had 10 left over. So I have 5 on each side. So that's what I did. Okay, so we have our vertical lines for our windows on one side of the building, and now we can transfer those to these on the other side of the building so the windows are straight across from each other. We don't have to do any measuring. All we have to do is, when we do our loop cuts, is we just snap to these lines over here. So I'm going to change my snap to edge. Okay, and I am going to just hover over this, do a Control R, and see, I get my loop, and when I click, now I can just drag until it snaps onto this line right here. All right, and I can just continue that for every line to make sure that they're straight across from each other. All right, So we're just going to continue doing this just like that. And that's all I'm going to do to match these lines up on the other side. As soon as I finish, I'll be right back. Okay, I got those lined up on the other side of the building, and they are, each column of window is lined up with the other side of the building, and they line up just fine. Okay, so we have our windows laid out. Let's take a look. So here we have, let's swing around to the other side. Now we have the stair windows to do too, but we'll do that here in a second. So if I swing around to the other side, we want to see if our model has 5, 2, 1, 3, 3, 4. Okay, so let's swing around here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, the divisions among the sections are exactly the same in our prototype. All right. Now we want to create some loop cuts. Well, we can go ahead and do our windows on the ends too. So let me do that real quick. So let's bring up our prototype and let's swing around. And over here on the end, okay, we'll do a measure from, let's do from this big one here to this corner. 3.79. This might be a little difficult to, because this overhang is going to mess with my measuring. So I'm going to click here and here. 3.3. Let's measure our window. So I'm going to go from here to here. So I'd say probably a 3-foot window. All right. So if we come into here, and we have this little part here, let's find out if I have a size written there. I do not, so let's do a measure. Let's turn this snap on to vertice and measure from here to here. We have 6.5. All right. So 6.5 be 3.5. So what I'm going to do is, here I'm going to kind of guess. So I'm going to do a Control R for a loop cut, and we are going to slide over to the left, and now we're going to be going in the negative y, so gy minus 1. And then we're going to do the same thing with our window. So g, move that there, gy minus 3 foot for our window, and that almost looks proportional as our prototype does. It's a little bit further over here, and it's pretty close here. Now this distance could be something other than a foot, but that's what I made it. Okay, now we just need to transfer those to this other section over here. So I'm going to turn on my edge snap again, and I'm going to hover. I'm going to get off measuring here. I'm going to hover on this one, Control R, get my loop cut set, and then snap to this line, and then do it again, snap to this line. So these lines are straight across from each other going down our corridor. All right, so almost have our windows now. We need to do the separation of the floors. So the layout of the floors, okay, what I'm thinking, or what it really looks like, is, see the beige, the more tan versus the beige. All right, now we'll make these stripes, okay, but just want the figuring out where the tops and the bottoms of the windows are. Now, remember, the standard size of a floor in a commercial building is 10 feet, and then they usually have a suspended ceiling of 2 feet, or I mean, suspended ceiling 2 feet below that. It's for duct work and things like that. So floor to ceiling is 8 feet. All right, so we got 10-foot stories, and if I measure from the bottom of this orangey gray, beige color to the bottom of the next floor, I get pretty darn close to 10 feet. All right, so from here to here is 10, from here to here is 10, and from here up here obviously is greater than 10, because remember, our building is like 45.5 feet tall. Okay, it's a 4-story building, but there's some differences. Okay, now from here to here I'm getting 12 feet. All right, but I don't think that's quite right. So if we kind of try to get our thing here, let me try to do another measurement. I'm going to go slightly below that just because it's coming toward us. I'm getting about 11 feet. All right, so if I say that our first floor is 10, all right, then we have a 3 foot from here. Oops, let me clear that. From this edge to the bottom of the air conditioner vent, I got 2.5 feet. All right, so let's see how this looks. So if I go, we can actually do it this way. We have a flat spot here, so if I go from the bottom of the air conditioner vent to the top of the window, I'm getting 7 feet, which is right, because this is the vents, the air conditioner is 2 feet, and then the windows are 5 feet tall. Okay, which gives us a total height of 7, same height as a door. And if we, at the bottom of this area right here is probably equal to the floor, because those air conditioner units sit on the floor right below the window. Okay, and then if I go up 7 feet, that's from that point, it's going to get me the top of the door on the inside of the hallway, right? And the tops of the windows and the tops of the doors are usually on the same plane. Okay, but I have some extra here because this is the ground floor, and they're usually a little different. Okay, so I know I got top of the windows is going to be 7 feet. All right, so let's go to our model, and we want to do that first floor of windows. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a control loop cut, control R, click, slide that all the way down at the bottom, and then I'm going to GZ7. Okay, that is going to create the top of the window on the first floor. All right, now most likely that first floor is going to be a little bit different, because most first floors in commercial buildings are a little different. So let's take a look at our prototype, and let's see if we can get this mapped as close as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this, and I am going to measure from the ground to the bottom of the air conditioner vent, because that should be where our floor is. And we are looking at 13 3/4. Okay, I always do an average. So click here, bottom of the window, 13 and a half. All right, so we're going to make the bottom of the second floor 13 and a half feet above the ground. All right, is that going to be correct? I have no idea. All right, so if it's 13 and a half feet and my first one is at 7, that means my next horizontal loop cut is going to be 6 and a half, right? 6 and a half and 7 is 13 and a half. So we're going to do a Control R, slide that down here. I'm going to turn off snap here. Okay, now I'm going to GZ 6.5. So this right here gives us our first floor location. All right. So we're going to go 10 feet, 10 feet, and 10 feet. All right. So I'm going to do a Control R and GZ10. And then I'm going to do another Control R, bring that down, GZ10. Okay, so we have our second floor, third floor, fourth floor. All right. Now, I'm not going to do anything with at the top. Well, on the top floor, we're going to go to the top of the window, which is going to be 7 feet to the top of the window. All right, so we're going to Control R, click, and then GZ 7 feet. All right, so that's the top of the windows on the fourth floor. All right, and I can do the same for the third floor. So Control R, put a loop cut here, drop this down, GZ 7. That's the top of the windows on the third floor. And then basically do the same thing on this second floor. Control R, slide that down, GZ 7. So there, this line, all right, this line, and this line is the top of the window. And then from here, okay, we need to create, I'm sorry, this line here is the bottom, is the first floor. It's where the actual floor is, all right? So we need to go up 2 feet from this for our air conditioner vents, right? And the same with the bottom, all right? So we're gonna go Control R, and on this first floor, drop it down, GZ2, okay? All right, so here's our first floor. Let's go to our second floor, which is a little higher than the 10 feet because that's usually how commercial buildings are. And we need to put our air conditioner vents on the second floor. So Control R, slide that down to there, GZ2. And the same with our third and fourth floor. Click GZ2. And then our fourth floor, GZ2. Okay, yeah, see, so there's a whole bunch of subdivisions going on, right? All right, it'll make sense as we move closer. So what I think I'm going to do today is we're going to stop here, okay? And the next video, I'm simply going to select out the actual windows themselves and show you how I get the three-dimensional the insets of the windows and the air conditioner vents and stuff like that. So this should be enough for our video today. All right, next time we're gonna do some more work on the windows. So this shows you how I subdivide a building to start piecing out parts of the building for windows. All right, now I haven't done any doors on the first floor, you know, like lobby doors and stuff. We'll take care of that later. All right, but they're kind of there because there's one door right here, and from here to here is 7 feet, so that's the top of the door. All right, so I still have the top of the doors. So anyway, next video, please join me, and we will continue on building this Fairfield Inn Hotel. Please subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification bell for upcoming videos, and if you feel inclined, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld, and I will see you guys on the next video. See you later.